Love you, Linda. Love you.
The courthouse the other day in the hallway, you're singing "Oh Happy Day."
One word prayer. Justice, where are you?
How many times am I going to do that? Probably another
Hey!
few. Probably a few.
Hello,
Anyway, I always forget
everybody.
to bring us in. It's like a little private session. Welcome to Justice Serve TV on the air. Hello, Linda Kenny Button. How are you?
You're Michael. Everybody knows who Michael Bryan is. Michael Bryan is going to have some breaking news, but I just want to say hello to Romy. She's a new member coming right in here, right off the bat. And Sam Poop, okay. Miss Jessica MB, Toots is here. Reasonable Doubt is here. Oasis Cat, of course, one of our mods who's been retweeting because we decided to go a half an hour earlier. We had so much to do. Hey, Joanna. Hey, fam. Again, so Kathy R is here. Hello, Kathy Antoinette to Making Cast. Everyone's starting to come on. All right. So, you know,
I'm exhausted already. So just but just kind of the layout for folks. We have a guest coming up at 6 o'clock. Mizzy will be here as we get into the Sandra Birchmore case. Which, of course, has its tentacles all intertwined with the Karen Reed case
I'm a little confused.
Its own tragic way, yes?
I'm a little confused. Aren't I normally on the other side?
I don't understand. I think it's how I bring us into the studio. You want me to switch us?
Yeah.
Do you feel better if we're switched? Okay. Oh, that's the wrong way again. Hold on.
It was. I mean,
there we go. Is that better?
There we go. I just feel, I don't know about you, but I feel so much better. It's like I was, you know, I mean, you know, sometimes I do write with my left hand, but I was really getting confused there.
I understand that.
Yeah.
We're human beings, you know. We're creatures of habit. So we're going to have that coming up at 6 o'clock. We're going to dig into the Birchmore case with the help of Mizzy. You know, see where that is. It's a federal case. It's been kind of under the radar, but it is so intertwined with Karen Reed and the alleged corruption going on up there that we thought, you know, now that they're going through the jury selection process, a little bit of downtime, sort of. We're also going to update you on where we are with the jury. We're going to update you on where we are with a couple of motions, the decisions that were made, and there was another filing, all related to expert testimony. Let's start. Should we? Let's do this first, just for. Okay, I guess I shouldn't say let's do this and then I hit the breaking news. I should just hit the breaking news, right? We got really a few things that are breaking. First of all, we have now 7 jurors seated in the case.
7 jurors.
Can you believe that?
I'm shocked. I don't know the gender breakdown. I didn't see that reported tonight.
I think I do. Hold on, let me check my voluminous notes. My voluminous notes.
We are going to have a jury with
4 men and 3 women.
We're going to have a jury in the next 2 weeks. This case could start. I think she may give a break and start it after Easter, so that you have Passover and you have the good, you know.
You're always working out the calendar with the holidays. I noticed
right,
that.
And start it right. But I think this is you know, this case is going to start sooner. You know what that tells me, Michael Bryan? It tells me that almost everybody on that jury.
It's like, I want to pick me.
It's a stealth juror. You know what? They want to be on that jury because you had a lot of people in both veneers that said they had made up their mind. There was a ton of people, and you had usually about 16 or 17 of them who said they were biased. Okay, which is very interesting. They understand bias. I don't know how they define bias versus they made up their mind, or they you know, that on a case. But despite all that, obviously, jurors answered the questions as they thought they should be answered to get on the jury, in my humble opinion.
So if you're biased, you're saying, I'm biased, but I'm open to persuasion.
Maybe.
Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah.
Which is, you know, that's like starting, you know, below 0. If you're trying to convince them in your way, you've got to already get them up to 0 before you begin convincing. But anyway, here's the other thing I thought. This was shocking to me and downright dumb. 16 total jurors, that's the target. That's 4 alternates. So we have a case that is arguably more complex now, more experts, more overall witnesses, 150-ish on the list, longer likelihood in terms of run time for the trial. Let's have fewer alts Because they had 8 last time. We're cutting that to 4. I just think that's ridiculously stupid.
It's absolutely. We've talked about that because you're risking. Why do you want to risk it? All right. Why do you
What's
want to
the
risk
point?
it?
Really?
What? Were they going
You
to pay
save
less?
half a day in jury selection to do a couple more alts?
Or maybe you pay less if you're Massachusetts, right? Maybe you're going to pay less. Okay.
Well,
I don't know.
They're trying to save money because of that report that they did. That cost a lot of money.
That was Canton. That was Canton, right?
That was $200,000. That's got to be a lot of their budget.
Yeah. Well, anyhow, that's a whole other issue. But breaking news. You want to run it again? You want to run it again?
Would that be where?
I said run it again.
Both breaking and exclusive.
Exclusive, right.
Okay. So folks may remember that I was up there yesterday just wandering the streets, which is apparently illegal now in Canton, to be in Dedham outside the courthouse, to be just walking. There's a limit, I guess. For those who've seen the clip, I walked back and forth apparently 5 times, but that's your allotment. That's all you're allowed. Before being accosted by the cops. Well, here's the breaking news, and I can only share a certain amount of this. I will say I've been in touch with, as you guys may know, there's been a lawsuit that's been filed challenging the legality of the buffer zone. Mark Randazza is the attorney who's handling that. He's from both Las Vegas and Massachusetts. That's almost bi-coastal. And Jason Grant, Allison Taggart, Lisa Peterson, and Samantha Lyons are the 4 plaintiffs in that case. They were protesting Bev, Judge Canone. They were protesting her, that they had signs. Okay, so arguably not protesting the Karen Reed case, but just the judge overall. Anyway, they were told they can't do that within the buffer zone. That led to the filing of a federal lawsuit. Let's just say I've been in touch with the attorney and relating to what happened with us, Justice Serve TV, there yesterday. And all I can say is I've executed a legal document that will become part of the Eastern District case. And that's all I can tell you at this point.
Interesting. What is this lawsuit charge? For people that don't know what this means, what does this lawsuit charge?
Yes, it is. Let me get the actual causes of action. Violation of free speech, violation of due process. Obviously constitutional grounds for the case, which gives it federal jurisdiction.
Yeah, and yours may even be better because you were just walking and you were stopped by the trooper, said, I don't want to see you. I have the words, actually. I put the words actually on Twitter. I don't have them written down here. But like the suggestion was, you've been here 5 times. I've watched you, okay, come by 5 times, all right?
Yeah.
All right. And
I was flattered that he took the time to count.
Yeah, maybe he liked what you were wearing. I don't know. But the suggestion, clearly, in my opinion, was a threat and intimidation. Don't come by 6.
It was an order. It was an order.
It was an order. Yeah. Don't come by. I thought it was intimidation and threatening. Actually, just for all of you know that I love my streaming partner so much.
You want me to go away in cuffs? Yeah.
I thought he should have taken one for the team here, not himself arrested. So because he really, Michael, if you got arrested, you would have had the best case because you were walking on the Dedham document only. It doesn't say. It says, "Oh, public sidewalks are open." This was
it's ridiculous. It's unconstitutional. And again, as I've said before, I don't want to be the story. I'm there to cover the story. So here, for those who haven't seen it, this is part of the clip, and I want to show this, and we'll talk about it. This was a guy that we met right on the corner before we crossed in front of the Registry of Deeds, which is where the interaction took place. See this little logo? I have a still shot of it. I'm going to bring up when we're done here. That little blue label is all that he had on that suggested anything about what was going on, and it says "Justice, real justice for John O'Keefe."
It's just a justice for John F. O'Keefe.
Yeah, FKR. That's all it says, FKR, which is Free Karen Reed. Okay, so we meet up. He's ragging on something. I don't remember now.
You didn't really meet up as purposely.
He was standing waiting for the traffic light as we were. So I'm there
waiting for the traffic light to what? Cross the street?
Well, yeah. You get that little green walking figure, so you can walk. Yeah, we were waiting for that little green walking man, and I was there with Scott McGinnis.
He was a prosecutor.
So he's complaining about something.
Anybody else. He's the only guy nobody knows. Even Jared doesn't know who he is.
Okay, so there's the courthouse, of course, registry of deeds across the street. There's Scott McGinnis with not just a flag, but he has a garbage bag over his sign,
Very interesting.
so that it's not displayed while he's walking
Registry
through
of
the buffer
Deeds
zone.
across here. Again, this is where most of the jurors queue up, we think.
Okay, there's the first interaction. You guys are just going to keep walking back and forth. I guess it was rhetorical. And then Scott is saying, look, I'm just crossing the zone here to go over to the bagel place where a number of his associates were going.
All right.
We're gonna check out with the other line.
That's got to go.
Okay, you hear that? That's got to go. You hear that? That's got to go. This is an
Meaning, that's the other guy.
He's
Now that I-
behind me. The
Okay.
third guy's behind me. The officer is behind me. And, as soon as I heard that's got to go, I pivoted. Okay, and here's what you see. This is the officer who said that's got to go. This is the gentleman whose name I had here just a moment ago, and I apologize, I lost it.
But you didn't know him. You was
No, it was just a casual acquaintance. Bumped into him, and he followed us across the street. We were all going the same direction. That was it. So the officer tells him that's got to go. He raises his hand, not even really in protest, just like because this happened so fast that he didn't have a chance to either leave or offer to leave or offer to remove it himself. So this is what happens. With some attitude, the guy just rips it right off his shirt. And you can see, I'll do it in real time so you can see that from the moment he says that's got to go, not a lot of time has passed. Then you hear, to me, another officer. I don't want to see you walking by here again. This is the fifth time, okay? So my biggest fan, who's obviously very interested in how many laps I'm getting in, how many steps I'm doing. He didn't
that's
ask me
the
how many
state
steps.
police. That's the Massachusetts State
That's
Police.
those are the as I call them, the stadies, right?
The Massachusetts State Police. Yeah, and you were. First of all, you're walking by as a citizen. You don't have any. You're just in a jacket. I mean, we saw how you were dressed. You were back. You went to talk to protesters. You came back. You went to the bagel shop. You went to go pee. Excuse me. I'm just giving you some
wait a
inside
minute.
information here.
This is a tight shot of this is what he had on his shirt. Real justice for John O'Keefe, FKR. That's what he had on.
So it's almost like he was saying both things, right? Okay.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's what I think a lot of people feel. They want justice for John O'Keefe, and they don't think it's going to be through convicting Karen Reed. So that says it all in a pretty subtle way. This is not this. If you're anywhere in the area, you would have no idea unless you're right up on this guy what that says or who he supports. You'd have no clue.
Yeah.
But the point is the cop decided to accost him, and that's really assault and battery at its basic level.
It really is, because you're touching
his person.
You're touching his person without consent, right?
So that's
actually it could be considered theft also.
That's true. You
Right?
whatever. Probably not grand theft.
No,
It's
but
just
all
a
they say
sticker.
is, look, can you take it off, sir? If you're going to come through
Of
this,
course.
you got to take it off. That's all.
That would have been what's reasonable. So that is what happened yesterday. Will wind its way through the system. There is that one lawsuit underway now with those 4 named plaintiffs, and that's all I can say at this moment. But we'll keep you posted as more becomes.
And I think that there's somebody else who actually went down there today. Somebody on Twitter, Twitter, who also kind of was. Is going to try to test the limits next week just by being there, because they're not wanting people to walk through. I mean, it's a public sidewalk. It has not been closed. The court order didn't close it. The Dedham police order didn't close it. And the Dedham police order says it'll tell you when sidewalks are going to be closed. All this is that you can't protest within this area,
Right.
the buffer zone. It doesn't say you can't, like, you do 2 feet and go walking. Okay.
Yeah. And then the whole media thing is another story. They're really tightly controlling those. They don't recognize anybody's media unless you've got like a CBS Eye or a Fox logo or something with you. Doesn't matter that their own rules identify individuals from all medium.
Right.
These cops have been told otherwise, or they're just cowboying it. I really don't know.
I don't
I
think they've
think
been told anything. I think they were just told. I think they got sued because I think the more important clip was the one that you heard about the arrest.
I
Which
agree.
is getting
And
not much play, and I don't know if we have that here right away.
I don't have that handy, but I think and I may be able to go back and try to isolate sounds because we were both talking, or there was a lot of crosstalk,
Right.
and it may have blown them out. But what they said about
But you reported it.
I heard it, it was right there within 5 feet of my ear when the officer said, "We'll give them one warning. We've got a van here. We'll fucking arrest people if we have to."
Yeah.
That was it, and it wasn't done in I don't know how nice you can say that, but it was in like a really detestable way. Like we'll fucking arrest people if we have to.
Yeah. As a matter of fact,
dude, who peed in your Cheerios, man? I mean, we just got started this morning.
I hope it wasn't you. I just reported you went over to the
That was not me.
registry.
No, I did not do that.
And did this. Let me see here. Plot twist pending. Thank you for joining us. Plot twist pending.
Yeah.
Hi, JSTV. Did this happen in the United States or Iran? This happens in the Middle East because we don't have freedoms like we do here. Well, some are saying that in Canton, we don't have freedoms at all. Thank you for that donation, too, because Michael Bryan will use that to try to go back next week. I'll
go back next week and see. I'm sure the world will have changed by then. Something has to happen. Either the cops have to back down because they're going to be more confronted because what we did and what others have done is becoming,
Well, they did it because
mainstream.
They saw what happened to you. As soon as that happened to you, I told our producers, let's cut that segment. I was on the air and you'll hear me saying, let's cut this segment. Let's cut this segment. Let's cut it down to the shorter segment. And we got them right on the air because I thought it was so important that people see that. And then all of a sudden started picking up some traction. I think it was on a number of shows last night. People reported on it. People shared it on Twitter, which you have to do, right? Aidan Cardney then picked it up last night.
And it was Aidan, in fact, that reached out and had me get a hold of Mark Randazza. So
who runs the Center for Liberty or Center for Justice, or it's like an ACLU. It's like it's a form of an ACLU.
And he's a First Amendment guy. That's what he does.
Right. That's what he does. And so I thought it was that important. Now, Michael Bryan, I hate to tell you that you did make this story because, I don't know who else would have, you were very nice and you went through, but the fact that they picked on you, I mean, you are like the most confrontational person when you're doing your job. I mean,
I'm a reasonable.
You're reasonable. And look at you. You look like you're threatening,
Well, yeah, I know.
Are you looking like a shaman?
I had my sport coat on. I had collared shirt. I was, And it wasn't I don't understand it, except that it gives you a sense of it's everybody, that we're treating everybody that way, which makes it even worse in terms of just their blanket. I hate to use the word, but I will. Gestapo-like tactics. It's just
but I'll go take one for the team. You want me to go up?
You want to go up there just to purposely be arrested? Okay,
I'll take one for the team.
I'd watch
I've
that.
Never been arrested. I'll probably cry.
I can't really say I've never been arrested, but I haven't been in jail. So anyway. We'll keep you posted on that.
Okay.
Let's move on with Reed here. We've got some Welcher news.
Oh.
This is I always get confused because they've been back and forth so many times. Nobody takes no for an answer, right?
Well, the problem is nothing. What the problem is, by the way, Lola, the good dog, wearing a sticker is not protesting, too aggressive. I think though Judge Beverly in her order, Judge Beverly Canoni said something about wearing pins or something.
It's very clear that they identify protesting very. I mean, in fact, if I'd been wearing some free Karen Reed underoos, they would have found out and would have gotten me. So they're very, very serious about it.
Yeah, but there's being serious, and then there's being
ridiculous.
Then there's being not trained, which is clearly what's happening here, and that not training falls into all sorts of categories like crime scene detection and everything. Clearly, there's no one running the show to protect everybody's First Amendment rights. So I guess unless you're, a police officer and you don't want to talk to an internal affairs investigation, then you got them and you're going to enforce those pretty good. Yes, Welcher. Okay, let's move on to Welcher. I kind of digress there. So as you recall, Dr. Welcher is the prosecution, the Commonwealth, the government, there you go, the government expert who they brought in to get around the state medical examiners who have not called this a homicide. That is the death of John O'Keefe, after apparently pressure from what we have read or heard in the courtroom, right? The defense asked that there be a Daubert-Lanigan hearing because Dr. Welcher doesn't have a methodology. They say that he wants to talk about a mechanism of death, but really he is converting a mechanism of death into trying to be a manner of death, something that he can't do because he's a neurosurgeon out of Florida who does a lot of gamma ray surgery. But because he knows about injuries to the brain, and coup injuries and contra coup injuries, the prosecution went out and found him, and bringing him in. And the judge said, sure, he can testify, but he brought with him to show his, quote, methodology, 140 PowerPoint slides, all right? And the defense said, wait a second, you got to whittle this down. I mean, 140 slides, we could be here for 7 weeks on 140 slides, and it doesn't show methodology. Well, today, Judge Beverly Canoni ruled, April 1st, so that was yesterday. Actually, she ruled yesterday, right, on the motion, and she issued a decision. Michael, do you know what it is? Can I give you a guess?
You denied?
Yes, the defendant's motion is denied. However, the defendant says that the Commonwealth is if they start eliciting testimony beyond the witness's field of expertise, and I'm reading this, if they start eliciting testimony beyond the witness's field of expertise, and it's not supported by the methodology, I guess that's the methodology in the PowerPoint slides that is commonly accepted in the relevant scientific technical community, which of course you don't know what that is because there hasn't been a Daubert-Lanigan hearing, or relies improperly on witness statements, defense counsel can object to that line of questioning at trial. Whether it be necessary to take evidence outside the jury's presence prior to the admission of specific testimony by this witness need not be determined at this stage of the litigation. So I ask you, Michael Bryant, well then at what stage of the litigation?
Well, I have a feeling it's going to raise its ugly head again and again and again. Again, we talk about these motions in limine being, kind of rubber. They can change as the trial dictates, and I think it's going to come up again, as so many of these issues are going to come up again. The other one that happened today, are you done with Welcher? I don't want to step on your Welcher.
No. You go step. Go take your six.
This one was
sideways 6 times.
This one was filed at 11 o'clock this morning, so this one's as fresh as it gets. And this is, again, remember how I said that nobody takes no for an answer, right?
Right.
So the defendant is now responding to the Commonwealth's renewed motion in limine to exclude expert testimony of Garrett Wing. Now remember,
right.
this relates to the Garrett Wing, Crosby, Russell, Dr. Russell triumvirate, right? It's all about causation and primarily the dog bite wounds, right?
Right.
So this one is relatively short, but it's important to see what they're trying to do here. Again, what the Commonwealth is trying to do. They wouldn't take no for an answer, so they brought a renewed motion, okay? So if we look at just the highlighted stuff here, the entirety of the Commonwealth's renewed motion appears to be based upon the inaccurate premise that the defense intends to call Lieutenant Garrett Wing as surrebuttal expert. Surrebuttal, how do you like that?
Okay, so for those who know, there's a direct case, there's the defendant's case, there's a rebuttal by the Commonwealth, and then there's a question in Massachusetts whether you can have a surrebuttal. Massachusetts generally says no.
Well, that's what you think.
That they generally, the generic generally.
Let's just say it's disfavored, right?
Right. It's disfavored, right.
Okay, and so we'll see what they've done with that here. In actuality, the defense intends to call Lieutenant Wing as an expert witness in her case in chief. I mean, I love the game playing going on here, right? This is, the court has said, oh, well, if you're going to use that person only as rebuttal or as surrebuttal, then unnecessary. Well, no. We want that person for our case in chief. Don't assume, right? Don't assume what we're going to do. And so the reason they say that is The defense previously stated, and I love this. This is called rubbing Judge Cannoni's nose in it. As the defense has previously stated, June 18, 2024, the court determined that only a medical doctor could opine on the medical cause of an injury to a human. Calling Dr. Crosby, anyone calling Dr. Crosby?
Calling Dr.
Who is
Crosby.
not an MD and who is being allowed to testify as to the cause. So the defense is saying, look, this court's March 6 order caused the defense to revisit the topic of the wounds to the right arm of the decedent, including potential witnesses, expert in dog-inflicted wounds on humans who are not medical doctors. So there. So Judge Bev, if you're going to allow this non-medical Crosby guy in, we're coming in with our own expert that's not an MD.
Right. And so therefore it's not surrebuttal anymore, is it?
That's right.
It's defendant's case.
And
right?
then you have, they refer back to the oral arguments. Mr. Brennan was saying that we are not intending to call Dr. Crosby in our case in chief, only as a rebuttal witness. Okay, I get that. I don't believe anything he ever says, but I get that. However, as noted here, the court's March 6th order contains no limitation on the scope of Dr. Crosby's testimony for the Commonwealth. So they could call him, as I put in green, look at that, a little green there. The defense
my God,
reasonably,
green.
Look at that.
Our colors. Wait, green is Justice Serve TV colors.
That is.
We could be accused of being members of the slime gang, of the
Oh.
YSL gang, because our
Right.
colors are green, like money.
The defense reasonably assumed the Commonwealth could call Dr. Crosby in its case in chief. Well, so they're saying, look, Judge, you set up the ground rules. The order didn't reflect his limited use, Dr. Crosby. So you can't sandbag us, right?
Right.
If we went forward thinking what was represented at the hearing and not what you wrote in the order, Judge, we could get sandbagged. So we're bringing in this guy to prevent that from happening. We are going to bring Lieutenant Wing in as part of our case in chief.
And
yes,
go
go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, here's your law. Here's your law at the end. The Commonwealth states in its renewed motion that there is no, they say, sub-rebuttal. I think there's a typo problem there somewhere. This statement is accompanied by no authority and is incorrect. And then they cite 1, 2, 3, 4 cases standing for the proposition that the defendant can be allowed surrebuttal. In this case of the Benson case, the psychologist was sought to undermine some of the premise on which the Commonwealth's expert had relied in reaching his opinion. So it was allowed in all these cases. Commonwealth cited no cases that disallow it. So on two fronts, we're either bringing him in as our part of our case in chief, and if not, we're allowed to do a surrebuttal. And here's the case law that supports it. Commonwealth gave you Zippo. So
right. So I mean, this is just what can I say? What can I say?
So this is one we thought was kind of settled, but now it's back from the dead, and they want something like 5 days to try and have some sort of hearing.
So So what do you think? What do you think that Hank Brennan's going to say to this?
Well, it'll be interesting because he's called him on it. Now he's going to have to, in writing, I guess, either backtrack and say that we might use Crosby for something other than rebuttal, or he's going to have to further commit that they won't. So either way, the defense gets something out of this.
Yeah. Except that if he says they won't, he's going to say they won't. But depending on what the prosecutor, what the defense. Yeah. I mean, it's always going to be.
I'm a judge. We are representing. We will not be using him for anything but rebuttal unless we don't.
I
he's
like
going to say anything.
I like this one. I may have misunderstood.
I'm not sure. I may have misunderstood by misunderstanding.
I take full responsibility, Judge Sitsitsky, because I may have misunderstood. Do you understand me now?
Do you hear me now?
She hasn't done that with him. That's part of the problem. She hasn't done that with him. She's let him get away, and all these motions. The defense can't do any more than they're doing. They file in limine motions. They file Dahlberg-Lanigan hearing motions. They do this, they do that. And then, and quite frankly, they keep getting screwed. And we still don't have a decision on the ACA.
The ACA experts.
Right? On the ACA experts and the ACA discovery. I was looking at the discovery list today. There's still a bunch of stuff out there that we don't have decisions on. I'm sure they're coming because we may have a jury faster than she thinks she's going to get the motions out.
Yeah, for those who are joining us late, they got 5 more today, a total of 7 on their way to a measly 16 because the geniuses in charge think 4 alts is enough. for a longer
Yeah.
case, more complicated case than the first one where they had 8 alts.
That,
Okay,
that
look
they
at
have problems for. Okay.
look at the
All right.
timing here. We're just about
Oh my
on
gosh, we're
time.
almost wrapped up on all these little things. But there's some other little
Is there
things.
another one?
No, you know what I wanted to mention real quickly, and I didn't even talk to you about that in our pre-production meeting that we had. Yes, we do have
Yeah,
pre-production.
I should have come to that.
In the Canton audit report yesterday, we mentioned a couple of times the word CALEA because it talked about standards of CALEA, right? And standards are a big thing in the courtroom. You have standards. You have Dalbert Lanigan. Well, I just wanted to look up. We don't want to spend time on it, but if you go to the website, if you go to the internet, and you look it up, you will find out that CALEA is a law enforcement accreditation program. I don't know how many people you recognize the CALEA standards, but they say they're the gold standard in public service, and it does give you an international certification for some public service agencies. It's been started since 1979, so it has a framework in terms of law enforcement, communication, training academies, and campus security, the type of written standards and written protocols that you should have and you should follow. Anyhow, you can go look it up. This, by the way, that's just the, shall we say, let's see, number 1, number 2, number 3. That's the chapters. I mean, if you want to print it out, it's like this. Okay. I decided not to use another several ink cartridges to print it out. But I just wanted to bring that. That was a loose end I forgot to mention to you. I wanted to tell people about.
Very well. So we're going to shift gears here, kind of, sort of. I feel like we're kind of going next door with the side-by-side cases that are so closely connected. Did you want to introduce our guest?
Yes, as you know, and I will introduce our guest, but I first have to introduce our guest with the understanding that the next case that we're going to be talking about is a really hot button case, the Sandra Birchmore case. And it's such a hot button, interestingly enough, some people do not know. For instance, Michael Bryant, when he was at Canton yesterday, saw Tom's CPU, who's let us use his streaming because he's there every day and streams to, all the protesters to show how everybody is peacefully protesting. And when we started introducing me to Tom CPU through the internet, it turned out that he then realized that with my last name being Linda Kenny, which is how I practice most times, but Linda Kenny Bodden. My husband is Dr. Michael Bodden. He's a forensic pathologist, board certified, and he is the independent forensic pathologist that was hired by the family of Sandra Birchmore to review all of the autopsy and the finding by the medical examiner of suicide, and said, suicide, this is a homicide. Now, they don't say who does it when you're a medical examiner. They just determine what the cause or manner of death is, and gave that to the civil attorneys, who then released it, I believe, last year only, to probably the media, to the outside, and then also the feds then came in with their own medical doctor who opined the same thing as my husband did. So with that disclosure of any conflict, I have not talked to Michael, my husband, about this case. Matter of fact, we needed some documents there, and I said, well, I ain't going to go ask him because he wouldn't give them to me anyhow. So you'll see some of our documents are a little bit wanky, but because we got them off the internet. But we want to talk about it because it is a hot button take. So With that, I'm going to introduce to you somebody who has been on this case. Mizzy B is joining us for the first time. Hi, Mizzy.
Hi, guys. How are you?
Nice to meet you.
And we thought we'd let you tell people your real name and your website and all that, because one of the things we're big on here, as you know, if you watched me yesterday, when somebody got on to attack me without a real name, I called them a coward. All right. and then I didn't quite dox them because I didn't have their name, but I put them all over the internet. You want to come on this show, show your face, tell us who you are. And also we have the same standards with our guests here. So welcome, Mizzy.
My government name is Melissa Berry, but everybody calls me Mizzy. It's been my nickname since high school. We have a website for Sandra called Justice for Sandra Birchmore. I have my own website, MizzyB.com. I'm sorry, a mixed girl on a mixed up world.com. Sorry, that was my old website. I've been working on Sandra's case for about 2.5 years now, and I'm so glad to be here to, do a deep dive with you guys about her
Good.
case.
Before we get into some of the details, let me lay out just some of the background for those who may either have not been caught up on this case or are kind of a little vague on them. This is a federal case. Matthew Farwell, the officer who has now been charged with her death, they began a relationship back in 2013, I believe it was, when she became an explorer with the police department, and they had a relationship up until 2021, according to the indictment. During that time, she turned 16, and it was then that they allege he began having sexual relations with her, and that continued up through the time of her death. She was pregnant at the time, and she was found hanging from some piece of material from a doorknob in her apartment. I'd like to let's look at this video now as part of the setup for this, Mizzy. We have I actually was out there, I guess it was yesterday. But we also have from the investigation the very important video of the inside of that building.
Yep.
Let's see if we have that.
By the way, when I was telling our well, you're going to play this now. So
no, go ahead. I want to actually look for something else. You go ahead and chat.
Yeah, this is not,
go ahead.
When I was telling yesterday, when you left, after you had been, in my words, intimidated or clearly threatened from walking down that sidewalk for the 6th time, I didn't want to let people know where you were going. So that's where you were going. You were actually going to go videotape at the Sandra Birchmore location. I think we confirmed that location with you, Mizzy B, before we went, just to make sure that everything that's reported in the media, everything that was in the Canton audit, even though it had her address in the Canton audit, was accurate. Michael Bryan was heading there, and we didn't want to have any problems with Michael heading there, especially since apparently they had been watching him. So, yeah,
and so I went and I carved together some of this video, which of course I'm now not finding as easily as I'd like. But I think it was important for people to get a sense of, and maybe I'll just run some of the raw for you, a video that gives you a sense of the location, the surroundings. Mizzy, do you know how long she had lived in this apartment complex?
Only 2 months.
Just
she
2
moved
months.
in early December.
Wow.
And Matthew helped her move into that apartment.
And Matthew, again, the officer now charged with her death.
And I think the person who runs the building say he actually helped her move in? If I
believe it was the maintenance man.
The maintenance man, yes, actually said that, right. So there was confirmation about that.
Yep.
Okay. So, and this is, as I was driving to that location, it is right on the border with Stoughton. In fact, from the driveway, you can actually see the sign, the welcome to Stoughton sign. Let me see. So how or why did you get involved, as I'm looking for some of this video?
I saw it on the news when the Stoughton police report, the internal report came out, and I was enraged. I'm a small content creator, and I interview families of loved ones who have been murdered to help them get their story out. And then I kind of stick around and help them a little bit behind the scenes, send emails for them. Sometimes families just don't know what to do. So I just do those little things to help them. And I was working on 2 other cases, so I wasn't able to jump into Sandra's case. But I kept checking in on it. And then this was in September of 2022. And then in early 2023, my friend, who was the first case I worked on, she messaged me and she's like, "What's up with that Sandra Birchmore case?" And I was shocked because nobody even around here knew about it. Like, it was a blip. It was in the news for like 2 days and then it went away. So she said, "You know what, let's look into this case." So her and I started doing a deep dive for a couple weeks. And she said, "I got to get back to my son Brandon's case. Can you make a Facebook page for her?" She said, I'll do a petition if you'll do a Facebook page." And I knew it took a second to pause, because I knew if I took on the Facebook page, I was going to have to fully jump into her case, and a mixed girl in a mixed up world was going to have to be put on the back burner. So I said, "Yeah, I'll do it." And from that day on, I jumped in with both feet and made the Facebook page and just started trying to gather as much information as we could to put out. Her cousin Barb is the other admin, and her.
Well, could you say that again? I missed that. Her cousin?
Cousin Barb, okay. Barbara Wright, but she goes by Barb. her and I worked together for the last 2.5 years to, get Sandra's case out there, to keep bringing light to her case, put the public eye on her case. And it was kind of easy in some ways because of the Karen Reed case. I was kind of, as Karen's case got bigger and bigger, I was able to, because I'm a Karen Reed supporter also. And I was able to kind of, as they got bigger, I was able to get a little bigger too. And the Free Karen Reed movement was very receptive to hearing, oh, there's another case in Canton, and it has a lot of the same players like Michael Lang, Kevin Elbert, Fanning, so they were like, wait a minute, Michael Morrissey, especially, they were like, wait a minute, and I was like, yeah, this case is just as crazy as Karen's case.
And so many
more,
people,
more disturbing, even more disturbing.
It really
frankly.
is. It really is. And so many folks that I've talked to, and the vibe we get is very clear that Karen Reed, yes, problem, bigger disease, Sandra Birchmore case, part of that whole cancer, whatever it is that is rotten in that part of the world. Before we get into to the video, which I found, I'm very excited for. Let's remind folks who have maybe not seen her picture in a while, or a lovely young lady. She was 23 years old at the time of her death. It was on February 1st, 2021. So it predated Karen Reed case by a full year. Yeah,
it was almost exactly a year to the date of John's. I mean, John's was the 29th, hers was the 1st. And the similarities to their case, like, the weather played a big part in their investigations. Because of the weather, Sandra was delayed being found. The night of her murder, there was a huge snowstorm, just like John's case, and she wasn't found for 3 days.
It also helped in some way because I believe when the feds got involved, the fact that when they looked at everything, they knew that her car had not been moved since February 1st, which was the night of a snowstorm, right? And that her car was in the parking lot. She wasn't found on February 4th, 2021. It was in the parking lot. The snow had not been cleaned off. So they knew, that's one of the things you look for. They knew that she hadn't been out and driving in that car from the time she had been seen early the day on February 1st, where she did go out shopping. And she was found in the same clothes that she was seen in the video on February 1st that she was found on February 4th. So I think the weather actually helped at that point identify that indeed narrowed down the time frame of her death.
Yeah, that's one of the few things that I agree with what the Canton police did. They did notate that they were the ones who figured out that they went out to her car to see if her car had been moved. So there are some things that Canton police did good in this case, but there's a lot of things that they didn't do well.
Now, who are we looking at right now?
This is her as a youngster when she was with the Explorer program. She was 12.
Yep.
And
the one who circled, that's Robert Devine. He was the leader of the Explorers group, and he was the former deputy chief of police. And the other gentleman in the police is Shastaney. He was the former chief of police.
Yeah, and I know that Mr. Devine is now a lawyer, I believe, in Maryland, and he has threatened to sue people that defame him in regard to this. But there have been some very serious press conferences by other people that have accused him of a lot of different things, not sleeping with it's raping. I mean, she was young when she was having sex, and that's how. To jump the gun on the story, the feds have indicted Farwell. They don't have actually a murder statute for this, but they're indicted. It's a civil rights violation for killing her because she is a witness to an investigation involving investigation into having sex with underage minors, of what she was in the Police Explorers program, right?
Brutal.
It's just horrible grooming from I think she was what, 12 or 13
She was
years
12.
old?
Yeah,
12?
she was 12. And according to the indictment, it wasn't until she was 16 that she had sex
15.
with the defendant. It was 15?
15, yeah, because 16 is...
16 is legal in Mass, right?
Yeah, 16, which is insane. It's like he groomed her for what, 3 years?
3 years.
And he couldn't wait. Like, he would have been scot free, you know.
And then we'll get into this in some detail with, you know, then she got pregnant and who was the father and all that. But now that I've found my video,
Let's go. Let's do it
let's
like
see
we
if I can
planned.
actually run the darn thing here. Again, this is the area in which she lived. You said for just 2 months. I find that.
Yeah, she moved in December 1st in 2020, right?
Okay.
And she lived most of her life in Canton. I mean, sorry, in Stoughton. She grew up in Stoughton her whole life in different apartments and in her family home. So
Wow.
she was a Stoughton girl, you know, through and through.
Well, I'm
Michael, while you're
delaying.
loading that up, let's go to
Yeah.
making a count. Is there a pattern of when the perpetrators quote strike? Seems that winter and harsher conditions is something that something the officers want. I don't know the answer to that, to making a count. Let's do some research. Get back to us. We'll be interested to know.
Yeah. I don't know if that's what it is, but like, I just think with these two cases, they just happened to happen on 2 nights where, you know, one was a blizzard, one was a nor'easter, and it helped cover up the crime for a little while, you know, or like in John's case, it helped them be able to, you know, not find the, to plant the tail light and, you know, the recovery of the tail light. So, and then, like I said, in Sandra's case, it took 3 days for them for her work to call in a wellness check.
Right. To say that they're trying to reach her, and she always was her work. I mean, and she expressed happiness about having this baby. I believe there was somebody at work who actually had called the police department, right, and said something to the effect that one of your officers is having sex with this, which may have actually caused her death, because it looked like she was letting the word out. She was happy that he was a father and she was going to have a child.
Yeah, she was so excited. That's all she wanted, was to be a mom. You know, Sandra had a lot of loss in her life. When she started the program, her grandfather, Jerry, had just passed away. And then, you know, her mother and grandmother both died in 2016, about a month apart.
Oh.
And then in 2019, one of her aunts died. And so she didn't have a lot of, like, she didn't have any more immediate family, except her aunt, Darlene. And then everybody else was cousins and you know, but
and her aunt is now the plaintiff, the representative plaintiff for the estate in the suit, right? We were looking for the complaint. We didn't find it because we have so much to talk about. Michael, have you found our video?
No, I'm still surfing around. Let's talk about you know, the pregnancy period, because it seemed there was this odd change of heart. Maybe it was just an act where Farwell was first not so happy about it, and then had this weird change within about 2 weeks of her death, where he seemed to embrace her pregnancy, despite the fact that he had 3 kids and a 4th on the way. That was actually, I think,
the third one was on the way.
The third was on the way, and
was on the way.
And wasn't that child born on the night that
the day after
she was killed?
The day after she was killed, right?
Yeah, talk about that weird period.
Let me say this first so I don't forget. He used the birth of his child as an alibi, kind of, because he went right from there to the hospital. So he said, yeah, I stopped in for a little bit, but then I left and went to the hospital. Yeah, Sandra, I think Sandra, you know, she was getting older. She knew what she wanted. And I think she finally felt like she had the upper hand. And she was angry when she found out his wife was pregnant again. And she kind of said, hey, listen, I want a kid. And if you don't give me a kid, I'm going to start talking. Yeah. And I think it's kind of like she turned everything on its head, because, you know, he had the power throughout their whole relationship. And now she had the power dynamic and he did not like that. And so he gave her what she wanted, even though he did not want to. And what you had said before, about 2 weeks before her murder, she was starting to tell people about what had happened. You know, like, we started hooking up when I was 15, telling some of her friends, and she owed a friend of hers money and she wasn't paying it back. And her friend got angry. So the friend called the Stoughton Police Department, and Sandra, like I said, she was avoiding her. And the officer who answered the phone said, "I'm sorry, ma'am, that's a civil issue. We can't do anything about that for you." And she said, "Well, you know what? You tell Matthew Farwell that his girlfriend needs to pay me back my money." And
that's all of a sudden he realized that she was telling people
yes,
that he was in a relationship with her. He's got a baby on the way. And then I know this is going to get bigger. So Michael, why are you looking for that? Why don't we
I found
start?
it. I found
it.
it.
I was going to say, let's start it to the reverse on the suicide determination. Then we can go backwards. Okay.
Okay. You want to look at this first? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Now that
Let's
I found
look
it.
at,
Okay. Yeah. This was not really an attempt to create the worst drawn out tease ever. I could not find it. So now that I have, I will narrate. Here we go. So obviously big apartment complex. This is, again, if you look just past this sign, just behind where this sign is, you're in Stoughton. It's that close.
Yep.
So this is obviously, she might have been one of the first tenants there, right? In that, because it looks like such a new complex.
No, it had actually been there for a little while. I had spoken to a tenant who moved out just before she got there.
Okay. So here you have these really three separate buildings, right? That each one is a separate and distinct apartment building. I'm actually driving out at this point. So when we turn around, this is the third one in, which is the one she was in, according to your note to me, right?
Yep.
This is the third building in. Again, nice looking building. So there's the door heading into the lobby area, which I, of course, didn't have a key for or code for and wasn't going to look into. But what I did, you see, that's the ante room, the foyer there. Just past it through that door is this space right here.
Yep.
And so this is Sandra Birchmore. You were talking about the weather, right? You can see when she comes and goes in this little clip, she has like this scraper. It's a mega scraper. I've never seen one so big, but apparently she was using it perhaps to clean her car, or she went and got the mail. And look at the timestamp on this. It's a little tiny to read here, but this is at looks like 5:15, right?
Yeah.
I'll stop it. Yeah, go ahead.
The clock is 14 minutes fast.
Okay, that's good to know. I was looking at the difference in the time rather than the specific time, but that's good to know. You can easily do the math. So then she comes back out, and this is with that time adjustment you mentioned, this will be right at 5:30.
Yep.
Okay. So it's hard to tell what the weather's like at that particular point from this shot, but when she comes back in, which she does about, looks like 2 minutes later, she's got that scraper.
And this is the last time she's seen on scene.
That's the last time she's seen alive. Was she on her phone there?
Yes.
Can you just stop it for a second?
Yep,
So
I will back that up. Let's back it up.
And I'm going to ask you: do we know who she was? If you back it up, and
I don't know then. I do know she talked to her aunt.
And that's the same.
Okay, she just pulled out the phone as she goes into the elevator. She pulls out the phone.
She pulled. It looks like she's calling. Looks like she's calling somebody, not answering.
Yeah, I know she talked to her aunt, I believe, around 5:30. So that would work. That would.
Okay.
That'd be perfect timing, right?
Yeah.
So that's 5:30. Okay, go ahead.
You want to back it up just a little more too,
sure,
just so you can see something.
Yeah.
So you can see the difference. She's a peanut. She's only 4'10".
She's 4'10". She's the size of Dolly Parton. She's Dolly Parton's height.
Yeah. So she's a tiny girl.
Yeah. Look at her in the door right there.
Yeah. And then when she walks up, she's like, look how that hand sanitizer thing. Look how where she comes up to.
Right. Yeah.
She's tiny, and he's 6'4".
Well, here's the man.
Now we join these videos just so everybody knows.
This is the one that was handed out by the cops. I did not do any of these edits. So this is roughly 9 with the adjustment you mentioned. I think it would make it about 9:14,
I believe it
14. That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Okay, so incoming.
Now he's got this big guy. You want to stop it right there?
Yep.
Look at how big he is. He's got a mask on. He's got a COVID mask on, so you can't see his face. His hood is over him, so he knows his camera's there.
Yes.
And he's kind of turned his head to the, he's positioned himself so you really can't see his face really well. For those,
and obviously he knows the code, because he got in from the outside.
Yes, he had the code. He had
fob or whatever they use.
Yeah. He I think she was going to give him a key, but he knew the code. That was one of the things that how you mentioned, oh, he was being nice to her. He asked for a key.
Right.
He asked for the code. He was asking, is this a general code or is this your specific personal code? So he was like kind of, trying to figure things out.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, all of that goes to premeditation, when they get to that part of the process. It wasn't a crime of passion. This guy planned this thing out.
Yes. And I don't know if you noticed when he first walked in, because like I said, he's a big guy, but he walks in, he's hunched like this.
He is a little. I'd ask people to look for the same thing I was looking for when we see him leave. See what kind of characteristics does he walk differently? Does he, because if he did what he's accused of having been done in the time period he was there, and I think it was about 20 minutes, 28 minutes. Does that sound right, Lindsay?
Yeah,
28 minutes.
29,
I mean, imagine, what he has gone through. Again, assuming he's the man that has been accused of doing these things. Okay,
I think he's trying to show that, kind of disguise his height a little. He's hunched over a little, head down.
But he does wipe his feet on the carpet before he goes into the elevator. So, Okay, so here we are. He comes out, right?
Watch the difference.
This is 28,
roughly 28 minutes later. And with the adjustment, that would make it, looks like about a quarter to maybe 20 till 10.
Yeah.
With the adjustment, 20 till 10.
He's still wearing the COVID mask.
And he looks more upright to me.
Yes, he is.
As a matter of fact, if you go back in, you can tell by when he touches the height of the glass on the doors. But he looks like he's really rushing out there. Let's look at him come back in and then look out there, because he's moving. He's booking when he's coming out.
Okay, let's have him. Here he comes in.
Sandra's, God bless her.
Yeah, it's horrible.
The difference in how he comes in
so he
and
just
out.
uses the fob or whatever the thing is to get into there.
And he's kind of slowly moving, hands in his pocket, wipes his feet. He doesn't close this door, I see. But now he's out. And now watch. He's really tall. He's hitting above the glass right there, and he's booking out.
Yeah, no need to hang around.
No need to close those doors, not even the one with the inclement weather. Just let me get out of here.
Yeah, so horrible story. So where are they now? What's happening now? Because this thing has been kind of under the radar. I know in part because it's a federal case and things tend to be kind of handled a little more, I should say, less public.
Before you go there, let me just tell you, thank you, Sherry D. Gifted one Justice Served TV membership so somebody can get on and watch and rewatch Missy B, who's been following this case and is helping us all here tonight. And we thank her for obviously her time. So we have a lot more to discuss here as we go along. So.
Yeah, the federal case is slowly moving through the court. On February 10th, they had a hearing. Finally, he was arrested August 28th, and they finally had their first in-person hearing. They delayed it a bunch of times. I think it was delayed 3 times. And they said at that hearing that they were gonna, the judge wanted both parties to come in with a realistic date to have the trial.
Hey, just to clarify the dates, because there was this period of time, a long period of time, that it was declared a suicide, and we've talked about, and we'll share again, that the ME still says it was suicide.
And we're gonna talk about that.
Yeah, we are
right now.
So I want to get the dates locked down here. So she dies on the 1st of February 2021. Was it August of that year that he's arrested, or was it a full year after that?
No, that he just was arrested last August.
That's what I wanted to reinforce, that's because of this suicide determination. That
August 2024 is when he was arrested.
Yeah, 3.5 years.
She is killed February 1st. It's been determined in 2021. Yeah. That is,
thanks to Dr. Michael Bodden. So
why don't we talk about that suicide thing? Because let's look at the death certificate.
We couldn't find
a good one, and quite frankly, if one of the members of the family could give us one, that would be great. As everyone knows, I don't go to my husband. It's his case. He wouldn't talk to me about it anyhow. But this is Michael's gonna.
I'm gonna try and find a spot where you can actually read something. It's just such a mess.
Yeah, I could keep saying void.
You can see the address there, which is where the video was just there. Lists her occupation as a substitute teacher, right?
Right? Never married.
Never married. Then I see a pending. Let me back off to see what that is. Cause of death is listed as pending on this document.
Right. This is the pending one. We don't have the one, but she with that because she had this for a while. How long did the medical examiner have this before she said it was a suicide? Do you remember, Ms.?
I'm not 100% sure because I came on after, but
Okay.
it was a while. It did take a little while to get that determination.
Right. Now we understand that despite the fact that you have the federal investigation, despite the fact that Mr. Farwell has been indicted for as equivalent as you can for a murder in the federal system, despite my husband finding this was an autopsy, was a homicide. I'm not saying who, because again, they don't do that. Despite the fact that the feds had their own doctor independently, not wanting to rely on somebody who had a civil suit, medical examiner, come back that this was a homicide. Again, they don't say who does it. They just say it is. There was a huge article in the Boston Globe this week, and I wanted to screenshot it for you because I want to call out the great work of the reporter. Do we have that, Michael?
I do have that. I want to make sure that we're all done with this.
Yeah, I think we're done with that because that's the
Because
pending
it doesn't
one.
really, again, it was pending for a long time.
Yeah, and Mizzy, obviously, if you could get a member of the family to give us a copy of the death certificate, we would greatly appreciate it. So when we do our follow-up show, which we plan to do, and it may be as early as half a show tomorrow because we have so much on this. The medical examiner has indicated that they will not change the cause of death. So there you see. And Laura Cromaldi is the reporter from the Boston Globe. She's been on all of these stories. I would suggest to you, if you all of you who are watching, Google. She's got a great one, a chapter 1. I just pulled out chapter 2, Secrets and Lies. Investigators assume Sandra Birchmore took her own life. What did they miss? She's done the report on the Stoughton police chief, who said that the three officers involved were unfit to serve, including one of them that you saw that wasn't Farwell in that report. She has just done person's work, great reporting work. She really should win an award for her work on this. And I wanted to call out, we're hoping to get her on. I know we said something to her. She hasn't responded, but we'd love to get her on to talk about her investigation. Her name, again, you'll see it right there, Laura Cromaldi. She is from the Boston Globe, the same Globe that does all the spotlight work. And she just really just Google her articles. We don't need to repeat them at great length for you right now. But when Michael and I were discussing this, I said I want to call her out for a good thing. Now,
yeah, Laura Cromaldi is amazing. She we're in contact with her. She's come to some of our standouts, and we did a 4-year anniversary for Sandra on February 1st, because it was technically the first year we could say that she was actually, her death was the first, because it's listed as the 4th. And she's the only reporter we invited to come join us, because we felt like she's been such a part of getting Sandra's case out there and keeping Sandra's case out there. So we, the Justice for Sandra Birchmore group, totally appreciate everything Laura has done.
Now, before I go into my beef with the medical examiner in Boston, we did here at Justice Serve TV invite the Boston medical examiner to come on our show through our producers, and we did get a reply. Why don't we show that, and we will read them both onto the show, and we'll get your immediate reaction, Mizzy, and then we're going to show you some other things that you may not know. Okay. This is from Justice Serve TV Gmail, and these are to both the medical examiner, and they have a press office, right? And from our co-producers here, and on our behalf, this was approved. To whom it may concern, I hope this email finds you well. We are reaching out on behalf of Justice Serve TV, hosted by Michael Bryan and Linda Kenny Bodden, regarding our upcoming segments, because there's going to be more, on the Sandra Birchmore case. This evening, we will be recording 2 exclusive shows covering the investigation into the Canton police audit related to this matter. And part of this show will be the Canton audit. We kindly request the participation of a representative from the Office of Chief Medical Examiner, preferably the first-day physician who conducted the autopsy. If she is unavailable, we would appreciate the opportunity to interview the chief medical examiner to discuss the decision regarding the classification of Miss Birchmore's manner of death. Our show will be airing from 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m., and we would be happy to accommodate an interview at any time within this window. If another date is more convenient, we are open to arranging a suitable time that works for your office. We appreciate your time and consideration and look forward to your response. Best regards, our co-producer. And then we did get a response.
Yeah, and they're coming on.
Elaine.
It's great.
Yeah.
They agreed to come on. Oh, wait a minute.
No, you got the wrong. You must have the wrong email, my love. Elaine Driscoll to us. Okay, carbon copy the other person. Hello. Okay. Thank you for your inquiry. Given the ongoing investigation and pending court procedures, we respectfully decline to comment at this time. Best, Elaine. Now, remind you, this case, according to them, is closed. They said, well, they'll consider any future information. Excuse me. But what the fuck future information more do you need? Excuse me. That's a legal term, ladies and gentlemen. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Now, you've got me. Now, the reason why I get so riled up, okay, about this is I was in a little case up in Boston called Aaron Hernandez. And it was a double homicide that he was accused of. And Jose Baez, Ron Sullivan, and I, the Triumphant, I did the forensic work. We had a not guilty for Aaron. And unfortunately, soon thereafter, he did take his life. He was very pleased that we had shown to his daughter and his family that he was not that murderer. He assumed his other case would be reversed. And then, of course, his sexual preferences was outed just as, I guess, as a payback for not getting convicted, and he took his life a few days after our verdict in prison. So it's something that will always live with us. But after he died, because of the issue of whether he had CTE from his football playing days, his family decided to donate his brain to Boston University, their CTE center. And you just can't fix a brain from a normal medical examiner's office that'll be useful when you're looking for CTE. There are certain significant processes, and the lead hospital in the world dealing with this was, right down the sidewalk, so to speak, okay? And I had made all the arrangements with the attorney for the Boston Medical Examiner's Office. By the way, I also cross-examined the medical examiner in the Aaron Hernandez case. So I had a familiarity with the office and the history of the office and the at time loss of accreditation and the gaining the accreditation back and the change of medical examiners and all. But we went negotiation back and forth. Absolutely, we would get the brain. The brain belonged to the family. They had already determined that Aaron had taken his life. They had a suicide classification. They had issued a death certificate. The body was already at the funeral home. But when the body came to the funeral home, we discovered it didn't have the brain. Okay, so we wanted the brain for the CTE schedule. So back and forth, we had an agreement, like 5:30 at night the night before. The CTE people from Boston University would go there first thing in the morning, 7:30, pick up the brain and take it over to Boston University. When they got there, they were refused because the chief medical examiner decided to keep the brain. They were going to set the brain and doing the studies for which they had no right to do. They already had finished their investigation and for which they were not equipped to do. So Jose Baez actually was at the funeral home with the second autopsy being done by my husband at that point on Aaron, our client. We were all just completely, obviously, in shock and wanted to make sure we did everything we could to help the family. When I called Jose at the funeral home and said, guess what? They decided not to give us the brain. He just got in his car with the rest of our team. I was not there. I was doing the negotiations and went to the Boston Medical Examiner's Office. So we're going to play you a little bit of a clip of Jose Baez, who, by the way, when he's not in trial, hopefully will come on the show to discuss this a little bit more. I just want to show you because this is my interaction with Boston Medical Examiner. Let's listen.
Everyone's
Michael,
well
some
aware of chronic traumatic encephalopathy, which is, in short, is known as CTE. The family of Aaron Hernandez has decided to donate Aaron's brain to this study so that we could possibly help other young men who decide to play football and to help further that cause, and also possibly shed light and more evidence on this case. We made arrangements for Boston University CTE unit to take possession of Aaron's brain. We made these arrangements with the medical examiner yesterday. From one day to the next, the medical examiner's office here, specifically a Dr. Niels, has determined that his office will retain the brain of Aaron Hernandez and that their office is better equipped than Boston University's CTE unit, which is the most renowned unit in the world as it relates to CTE studies. And it is our position that they are holding Aaron Hernandez's brain illegally. They have released the body and withheld Aaron's brain, and it is their position that there's a fixing procedure in order to take the specimens, and it is their position that they are going to be the ones to do the fixing procedure. And we do not know, and the family does not have confidence in this medical examiner's office, specifically given the history of this case, the history of missing evidence, the history of misconduct.
Okay.
So it's just such a creepy story. Did you ever really learn what their motivation was?
No, did not. But let me tell you, Jose then said, they said, well, why aren't they doing it? I said, Jose said, why don't you just knock on their door and ask them? So the news media started knocking on the door to ask them. Do you know what happened? They locked their doors, closed their office, and wouldn't let anybody in. Okay, so that's and then 5 minutes after that, I got a call from the lawyer to say, come get the brain. Okay, because they had been called out on it. And so when I see this, and I see that despite everything you're about to tell us, Mizzy, about the crime scene, about the evidence, about the torn necklace, about what showed that this was a homicide, to classify it as a homicide, my blood boils, because it brings me back to that moment after Aaron Hernandez had been found not guilty, to try to decimate a family, to try to keep somebody's brain that you have no right to do. Okay, so this is not a single episodic event. This is a historical event in terms of, if you look back at this medical examiner's office and things that have been done. Just Google it. Don't take my word for it.
And so here we are a few years later, and business as usual, right?
To go along with this, 9 days before Matthew Farrell was arrested, the FBI went with their pathologist to the medical examiner's office. They met with the chief medical examiner, the ME who did Sandra's autopsy, and Trooper Fanning and Trooper Dunn. And they showed them like why they believed she was murdered, because her hyoid bone was broken, and also there was indentations on her upper chest there was blunt force trauma from the buckle of the strap that was used. And if she had done it herself, that wouldn't be there. And the buckle was actually by her right ear.
So how right? It was a purse strap.
It was the strap to an army canvas bag, not canvas bag, duffel bag. Because she did go into the army, but she was discharged for medical reasons. So he used that. So their pathologist walked them through why, this was a homicide, not a suicide, and nothing happened.
It's still unchanged. Now, Lieutenant Fanning, that name sounds familiar.
Fanning.
Where's that from? Where are those names from?
So what was his specific role in her case?
He was the lead.
He was the proctor in her case?
Technically, yes. Well,
Okay.
technically, it's weird because Trooper Dunn did a lot of the investigating, but whenever it came to a high-profile witness like Matthew Farwell, William Farwell, and Robert Devine, he was always there to do the sorry, my brain just like went out. The interview. He was there for the interview. He did take part into the investigation. And then when I spoke to him, he did tell me he was the lead investigator.
And who is William Farwell? I know who he is, but you haven't mentioned him before.
He was a former Stoughton police officer before he became a trooper. He worked with Robert Devine, one of the other plaintiffs in the civil case. He worked there when the Farwell brothers were going through the Police Explorers program.
And is William related to Matthew?
Yes, William and Matthew are twin brothers. William and Matthew are twin brothers, and they went through the program under Robert Devine, and they were his underlings. He ran the program by himself, and one of them was the lieutenant, and one of them was the deputy. And if you read the Stoughton report, Deputy Chief Holmes says it repeatedly, like he's their underlings, he's their mentor. He says it the same thing a few different, uses a different adjective to say the same thing. Like they worked under him. He took them under his wing. There was a young woman who Robert Devine groomed back then because she was in the same class as theirs. She was interviewed by the Massachusetts State Police. She is in the Stoughton Police report, the internal report. And she said to me, yeah, he groomed the Farwell brothers, but not to be victims.
So again, I want to thank Sherry D again for the Gifted One Justice Served TV membership and identified co-conspirator. We do a full show on Aaron Hernandez. I'll think about it. I know you all know that I carry around the letter that Aaron wrote to me the night before we learned that he has taken his life, and I've not shown it to anybody. And by the way, the Massachusetts State Police, they have the originals because he wrote them to all his attorneys, but they never would give us the originals because it's the case apparently still under investigation. So what we got is a photocopy. All right, that just gives to tell you how I feel about when I'm looking at this type of stuff. Just awful. So why don't you talk to us about the necklace and the indicia of the fact that this is a homicide with Michael Bryant knows a lot about this case.
Yeah. Oh, you're not asking me though. Go ahead.
Yeah. She had an abrasion on her nose. They said there was the Canton police and the Massachusetts State Police both say there was no struggle. There was abrasions on her nose. There was also, like I said, there was blunt force trauma from that buckle. And also she wore a necklace from her Nana. It was a pink flamingo, and that was ripped off. The chain was broken, and there was clumps of hair in it. And
I think we have a picture of that.
I'm working
necklace.
on it. Yeah. I'm working on it.
And
so the chain was broken, and there were clumps of hair in the necklace. And where was that necklace found?
Found on the floor, and a family member found it. It wasn't even the police who found it.
And how was she found?
She was in a seated position with the ligature tied around her neck, and it was attached to her closet door handle. It's not a knob. It's one of those handles you pull down. And that was one of my first things that I was like, those handles are the type of hanging is similar to what Aaron's would have been. They call them prison hangings, because that's what they don't have access to, other means. So that's what they do. And, it's a pressure hanging. And those handle, like I spoke to someone who lived in those apartments. She was the person I spoke to who moved out right before Sandra moved in. Not the same apartment. She actually lived on the same floor, just down the hall. She said the apartment is one of those apartments that look really nice, but it's got flimsy material. And she said she repeatedly had to, and this was before she knew where Sandra had done what she did, where they accused of Sandra, where she had did it. She said she repeatedly had to keep screwing in her the closet handle. And the doors are flimsy. And so they said she was in a seated position, fully seated. Her bottom was on the floor. And usually with those type of hangings, you have to be a little bit off the floor because you're using your weight to lean forward. And so that didn't make any sense to me when I first heard about the case. And the bedroom door was closed, and her cell phone was about 12 inches away from her leg and just out of reach of her hand.
And you know, the I guess
There you had it. You just had it. You just had
I've
it.
got it here. There we go. You know, that type of hanging they call an incomplete hanging, and to your point that the body really has to be off the ground, because if you're not off the ground, you're not hanging, incomplete or otherwise. But that's an easier way to stage somebody being hung than to put them full body, you know, up on you know, something in the ceiling or in a door frame. And that's, by the way, the same way that Epstein was found in his cell, which of course many people believe was not a suicide. So this is that
my
necklace.
husband did my husband also did the review for Mr. Epstein's brother to review that autopsy. He was actually present at the autopsy done in New York City. Obviously, my husband gets around on these things because he is a forensic pathologist, and there's not that many of them that are board certified in the United States of America. Now, I also read something about that her hair was under the ligature, which usually if you hang, you don't do. That was in one of Laura Cromaldi's articles.
Yeah, I think it was in the ligature.
Yeah. And was there something, did she tell anybody that he was being shifty, looking around her closets and stuff like that?
Yeah, she said he came over and he was being really nice, but he was being really weird. I believe he brought her some ginger ale that day, and he was going into her closet and like playing with her closet door. And then he went into her bathroom and was inspecting her bathroom. And this was after that phone call took place.
Yeah, I mean, it's like he's just scoping the place out for how do I set this up.
Yeah. And what phone call was that?
The phone call, when the friend called the police department and said, you know, tell him that, you know, tell Matthew Fowler, his girlfriend, needs to give me my money. The person who answered the phone told Matthew, and Matthew flipped out.
And who was that? Who answered the phone and who told Matthew?
We don't know. The person.
You don't know.
It's redacted in the reports.
It's redacted. Okay. And how long was that in relation to
about 2 weeks?
About 2 weeks. No, not that long. Right.
Yeah. And she, you know, like I said, she was starting to tell people, and since she got pregnant, they were having altercations. There was one time she threatened to call his wife, and he, you know, snatched the phone out of her hand and like pushed her. And there was another time he shoved her. He put her in a chokehold. And there's text messages that the FBI put out saying how she was scared of what happened.
How far along was she in terms of pregnancy?
10 weeks.
10 weeks.
And she was planning on announcing on February 14th. She commissioned one of her friends to paint a canvas saying, you know, my own little Valentine and baby Birchmore. And she was going to release that on Valentine's Day because she would have been 12 weeks at that point.
And I've seen a series of those texts that make it very clear. And, you know, we have Barbara's note up here. Sandra told a friend in text about it. He did a 180, and you can see it in the texts. You know, you can almost see his thinking, you know, going from some pretty harsh, mean things to very loving, embracing. I can't wait. I mean, it's so obvious that something happened. He made a conscious decision.
Yeah.
And speaking about texts, Give us the history of how, I think it was the Canton Police Department. Was it Canton, or who? Which police department? And it seems to be a crossover with Karen Reed. Couldn't find any communications between Sandra Birchmore and the father, who is now charged, Farwell, and that later on there were 33,000 communications found. Give us the history. Tell us the specifics. Give us the
history. After he left her apartment, he deleted all contact with her. He deleted all his text messages, everything. And they asked him for his phone. So when they searched his phone, it showed there was no text messages. Sandra had her text messages backed up on her computer. So they were able to get her text messages there. And that's one of the things that that people try to say, well, you know, they didn't have the text messages. And I said, yes, they did. The Massachusetts State Police, it was Trooper Garino who couldn't find the text messages on Matthew's phone.
I'm sorry, who couldn't find the messages?
Yeah, Trooper Garino.
And did he testify in the Karen Reed case?
Yes.
And he couldn't find messages there either, right?
Nope. The deleted message from Jen McCabe's phone. That's the specific one he said wasn't there. And they had her text message.
And let me just back up, because some people aren't familiar. Garino testifies in Karen Reed. He says that he never saw a deleted message from Jen McCabe. What was that deleted message, if you know?
How's long to die in the cold?
The most important one for the defense.
Yes.
And that's deleted. Okay. And he didn't find that.
Nope.
Now we move into the previous going of Sandra Birchmore, and he found no text messages.
Nothing. Yeah.
Zippo. Like
and
zilch.
Also there's something weird on the paperwork when they took his phone. Matthew writes something. He said, like, he signs over his phone, and then he writes a sentence that says, in the death investigation of Sandra Birchmore, and then he wrote suicide. And it's not like there's a line to write. He just randomly wrote that underneath a sentence. It wasn't like there's a line for you to
just volunteered that.
It's just one of those weird things. Why is he saying that? But yeah, there was over 32,000 text messages. There's over 50,000 text messages between her and all three guys.
And all three of them, and who are the other three? Who are? Give us the
William Farwell and Robert Devine.
And do some of them talk about grooming, contact? Do some of them talk about sex? Give us a flavor.
Sexually explicit messages, especially with William. He was making her take videos and photos of her sexual escapades with other men. He was introducing her to other men. He introduced her to the animal control officer, who went on to be a Abington police officer. And then there's also a military recruiter he also introduced her to. We suspect there's other men. We just don't have any, we can't see what hasn't been shown to us. But
it's like he had so much control over her from this long period of grooming that she was willing to do these things if they happened, just because he offered her up, it seems.
Yeah. And you got to think of it. People tried to, some people tried to rationalize what was going on. They want to say, she was a badge bunny. No, she wasn't. She was a child who was conditioned to be this way.
Right. And when you're groomed, people, I'm just thinking about, how did you say he was, like 6'5"? Did you say
6'4"? Yeah.
6'4", and she was 4'8".
4'10".
4'10". I mean, if you want to talk about an altercation where,
that's not a fair fight. That would have been easy. That's how you do that in 28 minutes, which is how long he was in that apartment.
Yeah.
And the thing about them is, Sandra
was also doing laundry too, wasn't she, Missy?
Yeah, she was doing laundry. She was actually the Barb who just commented a little while ago. That's her cousin. She's my partner.
Barb, hi,
Barbara.
Barb.
Okay.
We'll find you and put you back on. Let me answer these two questions a second. Cop's daughter, when does Missy think the feds got involved?
In their press conference, they said they had been investigating for about a year, but I'm not 100% sure. I don't know if they were kind of looking into the you know,
yeah, and we're going to talk about that because I think in the Canton audit, there's something about the crossover there. And Oasis Cat, who's one of our moderators, a wonderful moderator who does a lot of the cutting of our videos that you see. Mizzy, did Sandra have a favorite color?
Yes, light blue. And I normally wear light blue for interviews, but I'm wearing pink tonight for Karen, in support of Karen. But yeah, we do. Well, her favorite color is blue, so we picked baby blue for her baby. So it represents the blue in her. And we do blue and baby blue and white. We do the white to sit because her innocence was stolen.
Yeah. So Barbara, this is Barbara, cousin to Sandra. Barbara, is this you, Barbara? I know. I'm sure it is. Mizzy's saying yes, and she's about to cry.
It's the one I pulled up before. So yes.
Yeah. We think Sandra was trafficked. That's. It certainly does sound like it, Barbara. It certainly does sound like it. And the story is horrifying, just horrifying. I can't believe that it had to go to a civil suit for my husband to get involved, to be able to anyone. I mean, I think anybody, member of the public who would look at this would say this is not a suicide. I mean, especially the coming in, the going, she hadn't been there, the calls, everything, Mizzy, that you're telling us. I mean, I really want to cry. I mean, more than anything else. I mean, just horrible. And Barbara also wants to thank you all for your well wishes. Mizzy is the best, as you all know. Mizzy, you were suggested to us by Will DeGlara because we said we were
Thank you, Will, for hooking us up.
Yeah.
So other than this recent court appearance, what do you know is in the future for this case?
There is the next hearing is on May 6th, but it's I don't know what's going on. It's only going to be online. So we're wondering maybe a deal because
is he giving him? Well, the Justice Department's been a little bit slow because of the changeover administration. So things have it's hard to predict what's going on.
Yeah, we weren't sure
regard to that.
But the last one was in person. That's the only reason why. And the one that was because they changed the date. The next one was supposed to be April 15th.
Yeah.
And that one was supposed to be in person too.
Barbara, I don't want you to go away, by the way. Don't stay right here just to making a count. Thank you. You're always on our show. You're always watching. You're always giving as much as you can. We know we love you. Thank you for joining us. But Barbara, don't go away on this because we want to talk to you more about this because one of the things you mentioned, and Barbara, anything you want to say, and so we'd obviously love to have you come on the show, but anything you want to tell us, please, you can put it. I don't think we can get you into a private chat and all, but please put it on the show, or you can email it at justiceservetv@gmail.com. But we'd love to keep you talking here because you mentioned, Michael asked you about the date that the investigation began. When do you think the federal investigation began? And in the new Canton PD audit, and we don't need to pull this up, Michael. There's 3 pages dealing with Birchmore, and I would say to you, to me, they're inadequate. Okay.
Yeah.
They're absolutely inadequate. All right. They don't tell you they don't identify which detectives arrived at the scene. A simple thing to do. They talk about a second video review of the footage at Windsor Woods. They talk about that they learned that she was involved with an intimate relationship. They say here, and it's in a note, and I'm just going to read it to you because it's on page 101.
Yeah, and this is 3 pages out of the 206-page report.
Yeah, it's nothing. It says, note, after a lengthy federal investigation, Matthew Farwell was indicted by a federal grand jury in Boston on August 27th, 2024. Mr. Farwell is accused of killing Sandra Birchmore on February 1st, 2021 in Canton, Massachusetts by strangulation to prevent her from providing information to law enforcement regarding potential federal crimes. So the note says after a lengthy federal investigation. They don't commit to when this happens. So that's why we asked you that question. It seems to me that somebody should be able to get that information. And if you're being specific in doing a real audit, you would put everything in there. Who the detectives were that responded, what did they do, who did they talk to, and then it also happens in their conclusion, as a result of investigative efforts, investigators identified Stoughton police officer Matthew Farwell was present at Miss Birchmore's apartment on the evening of February 1st, 2021. Further witness interviews revealed Mr. Farwell was involved in a long-standing intimate relationship with Ms. Birchmore. Okay. And so with the whole explorers group, I mean, with everything, what did they do about this? This is where it then ends. And then there's a note later on in the final conclusion that says a Canton PD detective, that would be Lieutenant Fanning, I believe. No, it can't be because he's a state police officer, right?
Yeah, he's state police.
Yeah. A Canton PD detective wrote that Sandra Birchmore died of a suicide in the initial report. It was later determined that she had been killed by strangulation. Who was that detective that wrote that?
All of that's the thing is all of the Canton police who went to the scene said it was a suicide.
Do you know who wrote it in a report?
They all did.
But do you know what they're referring to? Because he says A Canton. This 5SI says A Canton.
It might have been either Michael Lank or Jonathan McCourt. But I have 4 reports from 5. There were 5 Canton police officers who arrived at her apartment. There's only 4 reports, and all 4 reports say it was suicide.
Now they got a little bit of a problem now because 5SI now says it should be noted that she died of a strangulation. Hey, medical examiner, hello. There's a new audit report by this 5SI group who does audits for the Department of Justice on drug forfeitures and all sorts of stuff, whether you agree with them or disagree with them. But this seems to me to be new information that maybe you should consider when everyone is saying strangulation and nobody now, except for you, Office of the Chief Medical Examiner in Boston, Massachusetts, is saying that this is a suicide, except for the suspects who may have done it, or suspect who may have done it.
So here's what's interesting about their reliance on suicide from the ME's office. They say when that determination was made, we can only rely on information available at the time, right? So that's how they're reinforcing their existing suicide, I guess, sticking with the original interpretation of what they learned at that time. But it doesn't make it sound like they're open to any new information. They're ignoring anything new.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, the FBI went there 9 days before he was arrested with their expert, and they had the meeting with the chief medical examiner, the ME who performed the autopsy, and Fanning and Dunn, the 2 Massachusetts state police officers, and nothing has been changed.
The only thing I disagree with Laura Grimaldi's article is that she's quoting a former federal judge, Nancy Gertner, and a couple of people say it's going to be the battle of the experts. It's not going to be the battle of the experts because any juror, number one, is going to be able to see through this. And, you don't, as we say on this show a lot, you don't need a weatherman to know which way the wind blows.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, this is horrible. And what further investigations are being done out there for any of the other young women who were part of this Explorer program? Especially Barbara, you think that Sandra was being trafficked? What other investigations? What other women? What other who were youngsters are being talked to? Do we know? And the suspects?
No, nothing. Nothing's really being done. And to further go about the trafficking. William Farwell was looking himself up at the JSSI, the system to look up things. He looked himself up 24 times, and he looked up Sandra 2 times. Why would a police officer be looking himself up in the system if he wasn't looking for a crime that he committed?
Oh, interesting point, Barbara. Thank you, Barbara. Barbara, how are you? And Mizzy probably can tell us this. How are you related to a cousin? Through what's how how
which side?
family?
Yeah.
Which side? Yeah.
Her mom's side.
And
'Cause
mom's side.
she didn't know her father at all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, her father was never in the picture. That's what it says. By the way, Micah, who is one of our longstanding members here, who always comments, and by the way, has one of our mugs. Interim status conference scheduled April 15th, 2025, due to the court's rescheduling difficulties and the assent of the party. The conference is continuing to May 6th at 11 a.m. by Zoom, as you mentioned, Christina. By the way. Christine, Christine, thank you. 5 more Justice Serve TV membership, so everyone can listen to people like you. Scorpion says, and I have a lot of more on Barbara. Barbara, I'm going to get to it. Just hold on a second. Somehow I lost Scorpion. So Missy Mayhem, you're going to have to find it for me, or because you know how I am with my nails. Everyone knows with my nails, they hit one key, they don't hit the other. Barbara, again, thank you for being on. You said this is so disappointing. I know that the justice system is turned slowly, but you can tell that we're all behind you. And right now we're all behind Sandra and the unborn child. And while I, as a defense attorney, believe that everybody is innocent, it has to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. Well, I believe that in a courtroom, but outside a courtroom, I can have my own opinions about this. And your Barbara says, again, I am Sandra's mother. Custom, and further said they should all be behind bars for what they did to Sandra. I can imagine that the sleepless nights.
The family's got to be just shredded over this.
Shredded, yeah. And for us thanking her, you're welcome. So, Barbara, thank you for participating with this.
And I mean, imagine sitting down as a family member with the Massachusetts State Police, and they're looking you in the face and telling you that she killed herself.
Daughter killed herself. Yeah, especially when it appears they knew better. Even worse.
Oh yeah, I mean, and on top of it, then this is where the Canton police come in, and this is where that report. You know, the way her aunt was told about this. I'm going to paraphrase it. But she called the Canton Police Department, so all their phone calls are recorded. And Officer Nix answered the phone, and he was so rude and uncaring, and he was just like, "Yeah, they found her. She killed herself."
Just a matter of fact.
And I'm saying it nicer than he said it to her.
Oh, gosh.
He didn't care, and she starts crying, and she's like, what do you mean? She was happy. I don't understand. I just talked to her earlier. And he's like, yeah, I don't know. Basically, I don't know what to tell you, and that's something that wasn't addressed in that. A family member should never find out that way, that their loved one, if let's pretend Sandra did kill herself, find out that way that their loved one did end their life. You should never find out that way, that it shouldn't be, they should have a little caring and do it, finesse it, have it done properly and not done in the way that he did it.
Yeah. Cold, calloused, not caring, brutal.
Yeah. And as my husband always says, it's the people that are left behind living that really suffer. Even if you have a homicide, or if you're not just regular natural death, you're out of your suffering. Many people know that from family members who die of cancer and all. But the people left behind, especially in this situation, cousin Barbara and Barbara, who is the person, Mizzy, who is the representative of the family who had found the lawyers who are bringing the civil suit?
I can't remember his name.
Who's the family member? Who's the state representative?
Darlene. That's her aunt.
That's her. Okay.
And I can't think of her.
I remember Barbara. How's Darlene related to Barbara? How's that?
It's her mother's twin sister.
Her mother's wow. So there's twins.
A lot of twins.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Story.
I know she's. It's tough for them. They didn't believe that she did this to herself, but for so long, like I said, they have the Massachusetts State Police sitting down with them and looking them in the face saying she killed herself. And I mean, most people want to believe what the police tell us. That's how it should be. And in Sandra's case, it wasn't that way. And that's one of the reasons why where there's this synergy with the Karen Reed case. You know, there's the saying, pin it on the girl. Well, they pinned it on both girls. They pinned it on Karen and they pinned it on Sandra. Both cases, who are the alternative, you know, culprits?
Cops.
Police officers. Yeah. So they're covering for other police officers in both of these cases. And they pinned it on the girl. Karen's just here to fight. Sandra isn't. And I had the opportunity to talk to Karen, and I thanked her. I said, thank you for fighting. Because Karen could have easily taken a deal. You know, she could have taken a deal and she, you know, and got a few years, you know, because she probably could have got a deal on, you know, what was the second charge, you know, before they even charged her, you know. And I said, thank you for fighting. I said, because I'm fighting the same people that you are. And your fight helped Sandra's fight. I said, because you fought, I was able to leverage that and get Sandra's case out there more. So I thanked her. I said, thank you so much.
Lizzie, what's the website you started again?
Justice for Sandra Birchmore .com. And we also have a Facebook page by the same name.
Well, that's why we wanted to have you on, because, you know, obviously the Karen Reed case is moving faster than expected, but there's a bit of a lull there, and it's a good time to remind everybody what the Sandra Birchmore case is about, who she was, how this all evolved, and unfortunately the my dog is totally upset about it as well. Domino's very
upset about it. Yeah. What other officers are crossover between Reed and Birchmore in the two cases from Canton and from the Massachusetts State
Trooper
Police?
Garino, I have the list. My brain isn't working right now. Obviously, Michael Morrissey, Trooper Lank, Sergeant Lank or Lieutenant Lank from Canton, Kevin Albert. He's a small part. I wanted to spell something. He was not there the day Sandra was found. People like to say he was the first officer to find her. He was not there the day Sandra was found. He came back to her apartment on the 6th, February 6th, when they did a second day of investigating there. And that's when they got the video. He came with Lank and Jonathan McCourt, Detective Jonathan McCourt, who left partly because of Sandra's case.
Left the department?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Where is he now? And did he say that?
I got a tip that he from his father told somebody that.
And where is he now? Where is
I believe he works for DPW. He's no longer in law enforcement.
Affected him that much. Wow. And how about the state police? Do you know the crossovers?
Well, not troopers, but Colleen Crawford, the AV woman who was the one who went to Canton PD when the Karen's team sent their electronic person to try to get the footage from Canton PD, and they said it wasn't there.
No, I can't believe they weren't better controlling their footage and what was and wasn't available.
Trooper, I think her name's Prince. She's a very little known person. She's in both cases, I believe. Trying to think of who else. There's like 10 people. I might be missing one other person. Not Tufts, Clark. He was with the he did some time with he came to Canton PD when they did the CSI type deal stuff, you know, with the blood in the car. And he was there for that. And he was the person who came to Sandra's apartment to photograph everything, to do like the CSI type stuff at her apartment.
Wow.
So May 6th, is that right? Is that the latest? That was
Yeah.
pushed from an April date. So it's a status conference. You think maybe there's something in the works in terms of a plea deal, but certainly we'll find out.
We don't know, but we're wondering if that could be why they're doing like a closed
Yeah,
hearing.
sometimes you just don't know. I mean, it could be so many things and
Yeah.
nothing. It is a status hearing, which quite often is nothing much more than housekeeping. So who knows? But
Yeah.
at least it's moving forward. Something is happening,
Yes,
even though that
yeah.
is still a month plus away.
Yeah. And Robert Devine also he's still going through the post commission. The post commission is who licenses officers in the state of Massachusetts. And he's the only one who still has a license intact. It's suspended, but he's going through his post commission hearing that day, same day. And on June 6th and 7th, 5th and 6th, I'm sorry, he goes through goes in front of the board, and it pertains to Sandra's case also. So hopefully they take away his license to operate as a police officer too. I think he wants to still hold his license because he wants to be able to do detail work, and also just his pride can't just let it go. And he's a practicing lawyer in Massachusetts.
Right now, yeah. And then before you go, let me just ask you a couple questions that have come in, Scorpion. When this goes to trial, what police will be testifying? I'm guessing Canton PD won't be. Any thoughts about that?
Oh yeah, they'll have Lank, the officers who were there when she was found. So Lieutenant Lank, former Detective Jonathan McCourt, Ensley Coutard, former Officer Yeaton, and Officer Brady. They'll probably be the ones, and they might actually too have Albert testify too, because he was part of it. And then for Massachusetts State Police, all the ones that we talked about before, especially Fanning and Dunn.
So Kelly, if Chloe bit, you must acquit. Thank you for your coverage. Missy is incredible. My heart aches for Sandra and her family. Could you also please look into the Justin Root case?
Part of the collection of
cases. We'll take a quick look at it. And Missy, you can tell us whatever you need to tell us on that on another show. I think we'll take a look at it. Disc Edge.
I can hook you up with his sister. His sister. We do have a group that's called Stronger Together, where the different fractions, Justin Root, Sandra Birchmore, and Free Karen Reed all come together, and we do standouts. We did a big one at Michael Morrissey's a few months ago.
Good. Well, we'll definitely have you. We should have you back on to chat about these different cases as they continue to evolve. We really appreciate your time, your passion, and.
But don't go yet, because we still want to.
We got more?
This guy's witch. Missy, what do you think of the Birchmore section of the Canton Police audit?
It's lacking.
The whole 3
there wasn't
pages.
Much to it.
Yeah. And Barbara, cousin Barbara, again, Ray, Sandra's uncle, is also helping, and he met with the Massachusetts State Police. And Barbara continues to say thanks. Many, many sleepless nights until they arrested Matthew Farwell. And interesting enough, Barbara says, I used to babysit her mom. Oh.
Can I tell you something funny about when your husband, it came out on June 25th. And
I learned about it by a Boston Globe News alert, just so you know.
Yes. So on June 25th, I'm sitting down getting ready to watch the Crash Daddies on, for Karen's case. And I'm getting like phone calls and messages. And it was like, we had about 6,500 members on the Justice for Sandra Birchmore Facebook group. By 3 days later, we doubled because of the news of your husband saying that it was a homicide.
Well, I'm very proud of my husband for getting involved in this case. My husband calls things like he sees it. You may disagree with him, but he calls them like he sees them based on his many years' experience. Barbara also said, Sandra and I connected just before her mom passed away and texted nearly every day. Oh my gosh.
And Barb was one of the last few people to speak to Sandra that night through text.
Yeah. Barbara, we'd love to also have you come on. I know it'd probably be very difficult for you, and maybe the lawyers have advised family members not to come on. We understand. I'm a lawyer. Michael's a lawyer, but we appreciate you contributing and obviously supporting Mizzy, who is here tonight, bringing this.
Barb started to come out of the woodwork a little bit, but they kind of, the family, kind of wants them not to talk as much. So,
Sure.
And I have the freedom to talk. I'm not a family member. So,
right. Well, we're here if, something changes as the case progresses, if it comes to a conclusion and they feel more, free to talk. Obviously, this would be a great place. We're happy to hear their side of the story and what they've struggled with, because it's, for those who missed that little nugget, 3.5 years between the date of her death and the arrest. 3.5 years. So
and we'll try to take a look. We'll try to take a look at that Justin Root case, because you've brought that to our attention. Well, send us whatever you have on that to our Justice Serve TV address.
I'll give his sister your email address, because she has all the paperwork. Great. And if you guys want any of the reports, they're on our Facebook page too.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah,
wow. Terrific.
We don't have all the civil stuff up. We only have the initial, the filing, but like all the FBI and the Stoughton report, all the Canton reports, the FBI, the Massachusetts State Police report. That's all up on our Facebook page.
And what's the name of it again? Yeah. What's the name one more time?
Justice for Sandra Birchmore.
Justice for Sandra Birchmore.
And you hear that, Missy Mayhem? I'm throwing that out to our producers who are so good getting us all the documents. So thank you very much.
And if anybody wants to watch, on my channel, I stream like the hearings for Robert Devine on my channel. And I am reading the reports, and so I'm going through a lot of the Sandra stuff on my channel.
And what's that again? What's your channel?
A Mixed Girl in a Mixed Up World.
Great.
Mizzy, it's been a pleasure. We really appreciate what you bring to the mix here with your Mixed Up Girl status, and keep us posted on what's going on, and we will do what we can to spread the word.
And before you all go, while Missy's here, please hit this like button. And you see that Barbara was on, and family members on. We are a small channel. We just started in September, but we kind of think we're kind of mighty. Everyone has been coming to us for interviews because they know that we're going to be fair, we're going to be respectful. And even if you have an opposite side of the view, we'll listen to it, as long as you don't get personal about it like somebody did.
It happens.
It happens, yeah. And also, please hit that like button before you go. Subscribe, share, notify. Same with Missy's channel, with Mizzy B's channel. Do the same thing. Always hit the like, subscribe, share, notify. That gets everybody into the algorithm, so people can hear the stories that they tell. And this is a story that needs to be told over and over and over again.
Definitely not over. Mizzy, thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
Take you for care. Having me.
You bet. That's a lot. Can you imagine that family? That is a lot.
Tell you, just listening to it, I wanted to cry when she wanted to cry, and Barbara is clearly, how do you, and who do you go? You can't go to the people that protect you, right?
And how much did they know or suspect, during the whole course of the last few years of her life? It's traumatic. Well, on that note, partner.
That happy note, right? Yeah, tomorrow night.
What's the plan tomorrow? I forgot.
Yeah, I think 6 o'clock. We'll have just a regular show. It'll be because
pick up on whatever's happening.
Pick up whatever happening.
Might also have a chance to catch up on some other stuff too.
Oh my gosh, we haven't done the Koberger case yet. We haven't gone through that. There's the Adelson case. There's the Melly case, which may get tossed. The judge is pretty pissed.
Oh, interesting.
In the Melly case out in Florida.
Lori Vallow Daybell, they have a jury already.
Lori Vallow Daybell, they have a jury. That's in the death of her husband and the attempted murder of her cousin.
They've actually broken it apart. So they
have broken. I didn't realize that.
They did, right. Yeah. They're bifurcating those, so it'll be one trial allegedly right after the other. Of course, Charles, the third husband, died at the hand of Alex, who's now dead, the brother, and then Boudreaux, was he a son-in-law, cousin, who was shot at, but
right.
It's an attempted murder case.
And then you have Adelson. So there's so many things we have not. Oh, we have Luigi, death penalty being sought.
That's interesting too.
Okay. So maybe
I'll
we'll try
talk
to
about
have some loose ends, although I think Coburg we have to spend a little bit more time on because that involves text and 911 calls, and we haven't really discussed that on this channel at length yet because we've been trying to cover. So maybe the next 2 days we'll catch up.
Okay, I'll leave that to you.
6 o'clock tomorrow night.
Let me know what you
Please,
got in
again,
mind.
hit that like button, subscribe, share, notify. See you tomorrow at 6.
All right, I'm Michael Bryant. Try to do the right
I'm
thing.
Linda
We'll see
Kenny
you
Biden.
next time.